The single most important utensil you will ever use in your kitchen is this right here. The chef's knife is the best all-around knife that every home cook is required to own no matter how many knives you have. Do you actually know how to use it, or do you just think you know how to? By the end of this video, I'll explain what makes this knife so versatile and how you can start looking and acting like a professional in the kitchen. And before we start diving into the actual knife skills and the techniques, I'm gonna take you through a little anatomy lesson of the chef's knife. Starting with the tip, which is located at the front third of the blade. It's used for precision tasks like mincing herbs, scoring meats, or slicing small vegetables. Next, we've got the point. It's used to pierce to start a cut or score food. Third, we've got the spine, which is at the top and it's the non-cutting edge of the blade. Now we've got the blade, which is the cutting edge that runs from the heel to the tip. The edge is the sharpened side of the blade. This is what does the cutting. Next is the heel. It's the rear end of the blade closest to the hand. The bolster is the thick junction between the blade and the handle. It adds weight and balance, it protects fingers, and reinforces the knife's strength. Now we've got the handle, which is the part that you grip. It's designed for comfort and control. And lastly, we've got the butt. It's the end of the handle. The reason that it's so versatile is because of the fact that it's used for basically anything in the kitchen, such as cutting meat, scoring bread, cutting vegetables. You're realistically capable of doing anything with this knife. It's very cheap. You can literally go to any grocery store and get it for about $8 to $10. Obviously, the nicer ones are gonna be a lot more expensive. So if you were to choose to get any singular knife, I would recommend the chef's knife. Now I'm gonna show you how to handle the knife. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with our dominant hand, and we're gonna use that to pick up the knife. So for my instance, I'm right-handed, so I'm gonna pick it up like this. You want to have your fingers in the right grip, and what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna pinch the blade. So I'll take my pointer finger, I'll bring it onto the blade, and I'll take my thumb and I'll pinch it on the other side. I'll take my 3 other fingers and I'll place it underneath the handle. And now, this is gonna give you a lot more stabilization in order for you to make accurate cuts. With your non-dominant hand, we're gonna form what we call a claw. The reason that we're doing this is because we're gonna take our hand and the blade and we're gonna connect at the flat side of your fingers. This is gonna make it so that way you can't possibly cut your fingers in any remote way. Take your thumb and you're basically just gonna have it in the back of whatever you're cutting, stabilize, and as you cut, you'll just slide your hands back and bring it together all the way. And that's how you safely cut with a chef's knife. Now, there's nothing more dangerous in the kitchen than a dull knife. So next, I'm gonna teach you about sharpening and maintenance. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen something like this if you have a knife set at home. This is a honing rod. It's a misconception that people actually think that this is a sharpener, but it's not. This is designed to hone your blade so that way when the blade becomes dull, it's straightening it back. What you do is you start at a 90-degree angle, and then you go to 45 degrees, and then you go half of that. And this is the perfect space for an accurate honing position. You'll start at the top of the rod and you'll work your way down until you reach the tip. Or you can turn it upside down, start at the bottom and go outwards, making it all the way to the point. Another method is you could take a rag, put your honing rod, and you can alternate sides until you can see that the edge of the blade is straightened out again. So in no way, shape, or form is this actually going to sharpen your knife. And that's where a whetstone or a knife sharpener comes into play. And let me show you how to use it. We can take a knife sharpener with a wet rag underneath, and again, we'll start at 90 degrees, then we'll go to 45, and then we'll go half of that. Another trick is you can grab 3/4 and place it at the edge of your cutting board, and that space that your blade touches the quarters is the angle that you want to go at with the whetstone. And you'll drag back and forth. And I'm gonna continue to go back and forth about 40 times, and then your knife will be straight. I'm currently using a 1000 grit whetstone. That is the standard grit that you want for sharpening your chef's knife, but you can optimize depending on how dull your blade is. Go more coarse if you have damages on the bottom of your knife. If you need to give it just a little polish, you can use a higher grit. Now you have yourself a sharp edge. Now it's time for you to actually use your knife, starting with chops and cuts. So here we've got the high cut. It's very simple. You're gonna lift your blade in a high motion so that way you can cut things like vegetables, for example. Next, we've got the low cut. This is where you'll do more of a rocking motion so that way you can cut low without the front of your blade leaving the cutting board. This is the rock chop. You're gonna place your hand on the top of the spine, take your fingers going into the pinch grip, and you'll do a rocking motion. So that way, whenever you're finally chopping or mincing, you're simply just going across the cutting board without having to lift the knife. So here I have a card that shows you the different types of cuts that you can make. This includes dice, brunoise, julienne, and so on. And today I'm gonna be showing you the majority of these cuts that you would be using on a regular basis. Now I'm gonna show you how to execute a dice. So whenever you're dicing, everything is about cubes. So you wanna square off as much as you possibly can. Here we've got a potato. I'm gonna square it off at the top, rotate, square it off at the bottom. Now I'll turn it long ways, same thing, place it on the flat side, and square it off all the way around. You have to square it off completely, or else you won't have a perfect dice. For this instance, I'll show you a small dice, which starts with your slabs. I'll cut down into a slab, and again, I can now take each slab, cut through, and now I have batons. You can turn it sideways and cut into cubes. Here you've got a small dice. Next practice cut is a mince. Here we've got parsley. What we can do is we can fold up this parsley and use a low cut to make your initial cut. You can now go through with your rock chop from before and finally chop it until it turns into a mince. And we'll continue to go at it from different angles, bunch it together if we need to. And now we have ourselves a mince. Next on the list, I'm gonna show you how to julienne. Here we've got a bell pepper, and you can cut the top and the tail, and you're left with the core of the pepper. You can cut through, cut at the seam, and simply roll it out as you're cutting. Now you've gutted the core, and you're left with just the strip of the pepper. From here you can clean it up, then you can turn it upside down, cut slabs. You want to cut small strips going throughout the pepper. Make sure to maintain your claw formation as you do this so you don't slip up and end up in the hospital. Next we've got the slice. We'll start by cutting the top and the tail, and we'll remove the skin. You'll cut it in the middle. You'll see that there's rings on the inside of the onion. What you want to do is turn that over and cut with the rings so that way it maintains its shape. If you were to go the other way, that would be your julienne. And this right here is what you would call your slice. And the last cut that we'll demonstrate for today is the batonnet. So first we've got our carrot, cut the top and the tail, and we'll peel it in long strides. Next we'll cut it in half, so we've got more of an even proportion for both sides. We'll square off one side, use that as our base so it doesn't rock. Then we'll do the same thing. We'll cut this in half, we'll cut those halves in half. Same thing with the smaller end. Now we've got ourselves successful batonnet. And if we wanted to go even further, we can continue to cut these down. And the further you go, you'll go from a batonnet to a julienne to a fine julienne, and then eventually a matchstick. A pro tip is to practice with vegetables and cheeses and make yourself a charcuterie, because then you could sharpen your knife skills while also eating at the same time and not wasting product. If you guys made it to the end, I appreciate that very much. If you have any videos that you want to see me do for you to get better in the kitchen, let me know in the comments and I will consider making it. Till next time, my name is Anthony Camarda. Make sure you like the video, subscribe, and turn post notifications on so you never miss a video, and I will see you guys on the next one. Goodbye.